Hey, in 2024, Alabama missed the playoffs, and Deboer and Milroe were heavily criticized. Shouldn't Deboer have pulled Milroe and put Simpson in? What would that have been like? Let's analyze. Alabama's last season brought up a debate that will inevitably echo for decades among Crimson Tide fans and analysts. Did Kalen Deboer make the right choice by keeping Jalen Milroe as the starter, even when the quarterback struggled? Or did Ty Simpson, who has shown recently with impressive performances, deserve a chance earlier in the season to lead the team? Ty Simpson's performance in recent games, including the dominant 38-14 victory over Wisconsin, which deserves to be highlighted, was spectacular, and later against Georgia and Vanderbilt. But still, speaking of Wisconsin, he demonstrated clinical precision, confidence in leading the team, and statistical numbers that place him among the best quarterbacks in the country. In his most recent two games, he completed 41 of 46 passes for 608 yards, 7 touchdowns, and no interceptions. Yes, these performances came against opponents like Louisiana Monroe, Wisconsin, and Georgia, for example, but his consistency and positive impact cannot be ignored. His style of play is exactly the kind of multifaceted weapon that can be decisive in high-level matchups. However, looking only at current numbers and retroactively reflecting on Kalen Deboer's decisions would be falling into a revisionist trap. AL.com columnist Kevin Skarbinski raised this crucial point in a post-game analysis following the win over Wisconsin a while back. Deboer's loyalty to Milroe cannot be overlooked. Milroe has been by the coach's side from the beginning, helping to keep the locker room united at a time when many other players, like Caleb Downs, for example, have opted to leave through the transfer portal. This kind of commitment is valuable, especially at a program like Alabama, where team culture is as important as individual talent. Milroe also had memorable moments in his career. He won the SEC championship, led the team to the playoffs, and maintained an unbeaten record against traditional rivals like Auburn, Georgia, and LSU. However, the 2024 season exposed his limitations. The road losses against Oklahoma and Tennessee, as well as the rocky second half of the win against Georgia in Tuscaloosa, were clear examples that Milroe was not infallible. These moments created divisions among fans, with some defending his legacy while others questioned whether he had what it took to be a national champion quarterback. On the other hand, Ty Simpson is building his own story. His rise mirrors the trajectory of many great Alabama quarterbacks of the past. Greg McElroy waited behind John Parker Wilson. A.J. McCarron sat on McElroy's bench. Tua Tagovailoa waited his turn behind Jalen Hurts. Bryce Young waited patiently for his opportunity after Mac Jones. The development of these players under Nick Saban and his coaches has always required patience, and Simpson appears to be following that same path. He seized his chance when it finally came, and now the inevitable question arises. Could he have changed Alabama's fortunes if he had been drafted earlier? It's tempting to imagine how the season might have been different with Simpson as the starter from the start. What if he had started against Oklahoma or Tennessee? Would the Crimson Tide have qualified for the playoffs? These questions are inevitable, but also unfair. College football is a dynamic sport, full of unpredictable variables. What we know now is that Simpson is growing rapidly and showing signs that he could be the leader Alabama needs to face future challenges. Kalen Deboer made a difficult decision in keeping Milroe as the starter. And while we may question it today, his choice was based on factors beyond statistics. Loyalty, leadership, and the ability to keep the group together weighed in. Now, however, Simpson has the opportunity to prove he can be the future of the show. Don't you think so? When Alabama defeated the Vanderbilt Commodores last Saturday, it was more than just a show of strength on the field. It was also a moment of reaffirmation, not only for the players on the field, but also for those who carry the program's legacy through their voices and words. Mark Ingram, a former champion running back with Alabama and now an analyst, raised an interesting point. The history built around Vanderbilt before this matchup seemed disproportionate to the real stakes. And as always happens with the Crimson Tide, the team simply did what it does best: play football with relentless efficiency. The final score of 30-14 might suggest a close game, but those who watched know that wasn't quite the case. Alabama dominated the action from the start, controlling the clock for over 37 minutes and managing to convert 2 crucial fourth downs. The defense, as always, was an insurmountable wall in decisive moments, especially in the turnover battle, where the Crimson Tide proved their superiority. This is something Kalen Deboer has emphasized since taking over the team. Consistency and discipline are the hallmarks of a winning team. And in that sense, Alabama showed they're on the right track. But what really caught the eye in this game was the context outside of it. It's no secret that Vanderbilt entered the game as one of the sensations of the early season. With 5 consecutive wins and Diego Pavia masterfully leading the offense, the Commodores gained a spotlight they wouldn't normally receive. Even Johnny Manziel, the once-hyped Johnny Football, showed up at the stadium wearing a jersey with Pavia's name on it. For many, this was a clear sign that Vanderbilt had become the new king, at least in the opinion of some analysts and fans who enjoy stories different from traditional powerhouses. Mark Ingram, however, didn't buy this narrative. During the triple option, he spared no criticism of those who underestimated Alabama or overestimated their opponent. "You guys love Vanderbilt," Ingram said, visibly bothered by the excessive hype surrounding the Commodores. He reminded them that, despite all the buzz, Alabama is still Alabama. And when the lights are on, the Crimson Tide often shines brighter than anyone else. His statement had a provocative tone, especially when mentioning Manziel, whose historic rivalry with Alabama dates back to his memorable days at Texas A&M. But at the same time, there was an undeniable truth. The Crimson Tide doesn't need the spotlight to showcase its greatness. It does so naturally, week after week. Ty Simpson, Alabama's quarterback, was another unavoidable standout. With 340 passing yards and 2 touchdowns, he proved he's ready to lead this team to a higher level. After the game, Manziel, who certainly understands the weight of being a quarterback under pressure, personally congratulated Simpson. "One incredible game, bro. You're playing like a player," Manziel said. This scene alone speaks volumes about the mutual respect between these college football figures. Even though he was linked to the Vanderbilt side that day, Manziel recognized the quality of Simpson and Alabama's work. On the other hand, Diego Pavia deserves credit for what he's done at Vanderbilt. He's talented, determined, and has helped change the program's culture. However, against Alabama, it became clear that there's still a gap between the Commodores and the traditional college football powers. This doesn't mean Vanderbilt can't continue to grow. On the contrary, they have everything they need to keep improving. But this Saturday, the Crimson Tide made it clear that when it comes to big games against big opponents, the experience and winning mentality of teams like Alabama make all the difference. For Crimson Tide fans, however, the message is clear. No matter how exciting other stories may seem, Alabama remains the gold standard of college football. Kalen Deboer is shaping this team with its own identity, keeping alive the tradition of excellence that has always defined the program. And as long as there are people like Mark Ingram defending that banner with passion and sincerity, it's hard to imagine anyone knocking Alabama off its perch anytime soon. Let's move on. There's something different in the air in Tuscaloosa this early in the season. It's not just the return of hope. It's the feeling that Alabama is about to rediscover the balance that has placed it at the top of college football for so long. Kalen Deboer enters his second year at the helm of the Crimson Tide, and the confidence is clear. He has a championship-caliber team and a new quarterback who, by all accounts, is tasked with returning the program to its usual standard of excellence. The announcement of Ty Simpson as Alabama's starting quarterback for 2025 generated all kinds of reactions. Some fans were excited about the opportunity to see an athlete who had patiently waited for his chance. Others, more skeptical, saw the move as a risk in a conference that doesn't forgive mistakes. It's natural, but when former NFL scout and now analyst Todd McShay said Simpson has to be Mac Jones, he wasn't talking about a copycat. He was talking about efficiency, control, and the ability to surround himself with the right talent and let them shine. This, in practice, is the essence of Alabama under Deboer. It's not about reinventing the game, but about doing the basics with excellence. And in that, Simpson seems to have the ideal profile. McShay noted on his podcast that the team doesn't need Ty to be a Bryce Young, a Tua Tagovailoa, or a 2019 Joe Burrow. What Alabama needs is a quarterback who understands the system, stays calm under pressure, and distributes the ball intelligently. Be Mac Jones, he said. In other words, be efficient, consistent, reliable. And the comparison is no small feat. Mac Jones led one of the most productive offenses in recent college football history. With Devonta Smith, Jalen Waddle, Henry Ruggs, and Jerry Jeudy, he turned a potent offense into a scoring machine. Jones never had the strongest arm, but he had what really matters: reading the game and accuracy. He knew when to take risks and when not to overdo it. The result was a season of 4,500 yards, 41 touchdowns, and an absurd 77.4% accuracy. A gold standard that, let's face it, any coach would be happy to replicate. And if McShay is right, Ty Simpson has a similar level of talent around him. Ryan Williams, for example, has already shown that he's not afraid of the burden of the jersey. As a rookie, he nearly reached 1,000 yards and scored 8 touchdowns, all at age 17. His combination of speed and body control is rare. He makes unlikely plays look effortless, and there's no exaggeration in that. Alongside him, Jeremy Bernard, an old acquaintance of Deboer's from his time at Washington, arrives solidly established and ready to add volume to the offense. He had 50 receptions and 794 yards last year. A reliable, technical, and experienced target. And newcomer Isaiah Horton from Miami adds a physical dimension the team lacked. At 6 feet 4 inches, with good hands and solid production, 56 receptions, over 600 yards, and 5 touchdowns. He could be the missing piece to transform Alabama's receiving core into one of the best in the country. This trio, combined with a more stable offensive line and a strengthened running game, could be exactly what Simpson needs to flourish. Alabama isn't asking him to be a hero. It's asking him to be the balance. The same kind of player Mac Jones was when he led the team to the 2020 national title, capping his college career with a perfect performance against Ohio State. For 164 yards, 5 touchdowns, and no interceptions. Of course, the comparisons are harsh. Mac Jones was a veteran, while Simpson is just starting out. But there's a similar energy, a sense that, under Kalen DeBoer's guidance, Alabama has once again become a program where system and talent coexist harmoniously. Fans might hear "be Mac Jones" and think it's about limiting Simpson's ambitions. But the real meaning is the opposite. It's about remembering what worked. Deboer built his reputation on valuing execution, preparation, and emotional control. And Ty Simpson, with his patience, dedication, and the opportunity finally at hand, could be the kind of quarterback who turns a good team into a championship team. I want your opinion now.